Sue Smith sitting in for Aaron Rand, and it's time to talk to James Mennie. James is a reporter, columnist, and editor at the Montreal Gazette, and he joins us every day at this time. Hi, James.
Hey, Sue. How you doing?
Good. Are you enjoying this non-holiday?
Yeah, exactly. But, we get Johnny Bass Day, so I don't see everyone gets their nose out of joint. I don't see anyone else getting the June 24th off across the country. So,
Just like you to see the silver lining, James.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Alberta's flag battle is just beginning.
I only mention this. This is a great little story that was filed by the Canadian Press, and it was posted today in La Presse in Montreal. But when you look at this story, and I'm sure our listeners, if you just Google it, if you don't read French, you can find it in English. But what's crazy is if you're a Quebecer who's lived here for any amount of time, you'll sort of get that weird feeling like, hey, I thought this was just us. Mm-hmm. And in fact, what we're seeing in Alberta in advance of this October referendum on a referendum is the division, the dividing line between Albertan independence, if you will, and remaining within the Canadian Federation is being defined the same way it was in Quebec with flags. And you see people who support, basically Alberta separatists have got the provincial flag, which is essentially like a St. George's cross over a gorgeous, mountain range with a bunch of wheat in front of it. And this has become part of the regalia. And apparently the story tells examples of people living in various neighborhoods. I mentioned our Calgary, and one person is going to put up a provincial flag in their window. Someone else raises the maple leaf in their backyard. And you say, well, no, this kind of sounds like what's happening in Quebec, what still is going on in Quebec. But what's the real irony here is if you look at the fleur-de-lis in Quebec, that is based on a design that was put together back in the 1940s. In fact, what I'm going to tell you, it was adopted in the 1940s by Quebec. It was actually put together. It flew for the first time from a flagpole in 1902, Sue. Okay. And it was designed or perfected, perhaps not surprisingly, by the parish priest of St. Jude Parish on the South Shore, the delightfully named Alphege Iliatro. And the thing is, imagine a fleur-de-lis that we see now, except all these sort of like fleur-de-lis themselves are pointed towards the center of the cross. That's the only thing that's really changed from here and now. But the irony, of course, is that the Alberta provincial flag was designed to commemorate not the independent spirit of Alberta, or the all hat and no cattle bravado of Alberta. It was designed to celebrate the Canadian centennial in 1967. So it's kind of weird. There is a kind of delicious irony going on. But, when you think about it, here we are. Even in the 1990s, when we had the referendum in 95, we weren't exactly living in caves. It was we live in a pretty highly, technological age. And even with the advent of the Internet, we are still relying on these, millennia-old icons to sort of stake our claim, whether it's either, politically or socially. And I remember even in 95 with the referendum, that iconic shot of that ginormous Canadian flag being floated, being held up by a crowd in Place du Canada. Yes. And it's so funny, Sue, to see the kind of punch that this piece of fabric, depending on what's on it, can still have in this day and age.
Well, I guess it says a lot, in a very simple way. It tells where your loyalties lie and a little bit of history. It's got a lot in it.
But it is, when you think about it, you could in fact reach a lot more people. You could never step outside and create yourself a profile with that imagery, if you want. And yet the idea of attaching this to a pole and going outside and waving it around or putting it on a T-shirt. Yeah. I mean, some of the images we have, some of the most vivid images in Quebec's political and social history are of flags. As I say, whether it's the rally in 95 with the Canadian flag, or indeed how many PQ rallies were absolutely awash. Yeah. Absolutely. With fleur-de-lis, And you figure, when did that, we don't see that much of it anymore, really. And some people will say that's for the better. Perhaps it is. But it's so interesting to see how, in a different jurisdiction, where the stakes are the same, yet the how can I put it? The approach to messaging remains the same. And I don't recall there being like, you in Quebec, there's always some backstory, and, it harkens back to New France and this and that. Well, this is designed in Alberta, like I say, was put together, to the tune of Bobby Gibby singing Canada for the 1967, centennial. And yet here we have this dividing line that is being sort of defined not by a wall, but by two pieces of fabric. And it is kind of odd.
Yeah, and it's too bad, too, because sometimes, it gets taken by one group and then you don't feel the same way about flying it anymore because it's become the symbol of something else.
But for crying out loud, look at one of the things that was said at the very, very beginning, it's not repeated that often, but even if you look, whoever put together the Parti Québécois, implicit in that is if you don't support the Parti Québécois, I guess you aren't. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because it's the Quebecers party. And which I guess is rather presumptuous, but listen, it's become ingrained in this sort of political firmament that we have here. But it's so strange that it's still catchphrases and symbols that still appeal to people at a very visceral level. Now, is it going to help the cause of Albertan sovereignty in whatever referendum they end up having?
Yeah.
I doubt it.
No.
But it's just so funny to see that when push comes to shove, we always fall back on the same symbols, on the same methods, no matter where we are and no matter how easily we could do something by tapping a keyboard a few times.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk about these twisters, 3 twisters in 2 weeks constituting an election issue.
Hey, listen, I'm living for the day. I know we're supposed to be in the slow period, but that really doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned in Quebec politics. But okay, 3 twisters, 2 in the Laurentians 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And 1 yesterday in Pontigny.
Yeah.
And I know they're saying, well, it wasn't that big a deal. I mean, I'm looking at the video from there. If you were there, it was a big deal too, you know? But I'm wondering whether anybody in the scrum, in the National Assembly scrum, in that bubble, in that ivory tower, will dare ask any of the leaders saying, well, listen, we're seeing the events that have occurred this summer. Do you think that should bring, the issue of climate change and reacting to it and dealing with it front and center? It's true, the economy is on everyone's mind. But I will bet you folding money, Sue, that for a lot of people who are in that zone, whether they're in the Laurentians, up at Harrington, or the Pontigny, Saint-Donat, and, who knows, it could be someone else's utterly unexpected neighborhood next. You're not worried at that point when it's raining sideways and it looks like the trees are going to go that way as well. I don't think you're really that worried in that moment about affordability. You are in the wake of it if you have to deal with damages. But this is a real issue. It is, and it's one now that we thought, it's every now. Oh, come on, it's maybe every 50 years we get a tornado. Like I say, 3 and 2 weeks. Summer's not over. Right now, the weather out where I'm living on the South Shore is kind of like I'm in beautiful downtown Rangoon. Like humidity is like a zillion percent. So this is it. You don't know if it's going to happen again. And the other scary thing, and I've been talking to my friends about this too. I don't know. I'm pretty sure you went through the same process as the rest of us. When it comes to the weather, things would get stinking hot, but then there'd be this mother of all thunderstorms, and then all hell would break.
Clear it all up.
It doesn't happen anymore.
No.
Now, like yesterday, when the Pontigny got hit, I'm not that far from Pontigny. I'm maybe, 10, 15 miles. It's the lightest rain here.
Yeah. A
high overcast, you had no thunder, no lightning, no nothing, no menacing skies. So this is the crazy thing about it. And I wonder what it's going to take for maybe not politicians, but for newsrooms to say, maybe we should get people a little more plugged back into the environment again and start asking some questions.
Well, we've seen it on the federal level, right? I mean, the people are turning toward back to the NDP, and they say it's because of the environment. And Quebecers supposedly care a lot about the environment.
Yeah, when they're not behind the wheel of their F-150 or their SUV.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're worried about it so much too. It's not even funny. But but you know what I mean? It's like I worked for a newspaper at one point, had not one but 2 environment reporters.
Yeah.
Find me a newsroom that's got 1.
Yeah. All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you, James.
And good luck. And I heard you talking to the night sky guy. That scares the hell. That is the first 10 minutes of a science fiction movie.
I know. I was thinking, like, haven't I seen this film before? Like on one of those dirty planets in Star Wars?
And something goes horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks, it's nice. It's going to be a nice astronomical phenomenon. And then something goes horribly wrong.
Okay.
And on that note...
No! Leaving it on that note.
Yeah.
He laughs maniacally. All right. We'll speak tomorrow.
À demain, Sue.
Bye, James.
Canadian women are looking for more out of themselves, their businesses, their elected leaders, and the world around them.
And that's why we're thrilled to introduce the Honest Talk podcast.
I'm Jennifer Stewart.
And I'm Catherine Clark. And in this podcast, we interview Canada's most inspiring women.
Entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, politicians, and newsmakers, all at different stages of their journey.
So if you're looking to connect, then we hope you'll join us.
Listen to the Honest Talk podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts.